back to my channel. I am Raphaella, and I'm here today with a special guest. We have Rosa.
Hi.
So they have seen you in the videos so. Many times before. They've definitely seen you, but why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself formally anyways. And for the purpose of this video, please tell us what you have studied, if you have gone to university before, and what is your current occupation.
Okay, so my name's Rosa, and I met Lex at university actually, so we've been friends quite a long time now.
Yeah.
So I went to university, I studied psychology, and I'm about to start training to become a clinical psychologist. I'm about to start the doctorate training program.
Amazing! So I have written a few questions, but I guess it would be nice to kind of just have like a chit chat. I'm also really excited because you are actually kicking off this series as our first guest.
Special guest.
I know, literally. I just felt like I wanted to start this series on my channel, which I'm really excited about, which was going to feature different people from different fields. I think that one of the things that I would have personally wanted when I was going to university was a bit more direction into what field I wanted to go into how to, you know, get a job after work experience, etc.
Yeah.
And so that's my ambition.
Yeah.
I also think that, you know, people always talk about in order to be successful, don't learn from what people have done that is, you know, great and successful, but rather learn from their mistakes and, you know, whatever shortcomings they've had.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to kind of have like an open discussion and transparency so that people can be encouraged and not make the same mistakes. So
hopefully it's helpful.
I know. I'm sure it will be. So everyone get comfortable. Rosa, get comfortable.
Yeah.
Grab your drink. You know, you can drink whenever.
Thank you.
And let's get chatting. Okay. So question number one. Prior to going to university, did you know that you were going to do a psychology degree? And also, did you do A-levels or did you do IB? And if so, did you study psychology in that?
Yeah, so I did A-levels. I did 4 A-levels. I did psychology as one of them, and then did English, geography and art. So yeah, I did do psychology. Yeah, and I always wanted to do psychology at uni, I think, because I enjoyed it at school. It wasn't really anything that deep. It was just like, I enjoyed the lesson, I liked the teacher, I was kind of good at it, and I just thought, I don't know what else I want to do, so I just chose it. Because I feel like when you're at school, they just tell you to pick something.
Yeah.
No one really gives you that much advice on like careers. I didn't really think about like what I would do with the degree. I just chose psychology because I liked it. Yeah.
Okay. And actually, I can't remember well, but I did psychology obviously, and I also took psychology in my IB exams. But did we have to do psychology at uni?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
I can't remember.
Yeah, we'll probably put it in the comment below.
We can check.
Yeah, we can check. It seems like such a long time ago.
I know, it's so long. Yeah, I don't know actually.
Yeah.
I guess I would say yes.
Yeah, probably.
But maybe no, I don't know. Maybe
because
some unis are different anyway.
Yeah. Because I know in some unis or with some degrees, you could do the degree even though you hadn't done it in school. But they wanted you to do, for example, certain subjects that related to
like
that.
Science or something. Yeah.
Actually, whilst we're on the topic, did you think that psychology in school was different to psychology at uni?
Yeah, so different. It was so much easier at school, wasn't it?
It was so much easier.
At university, it was such a big transition, I think. It went from like really nice, I was really good at it, and then all of a sudden at university it was very much a big shock.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was tough.
And I think when I think about it, it was more like, I don't know, I feel like it was more focusing, well, for me personally, when I was doing psychology in IB, I feel like it was more focusing on like the behavioral psychology, whereas when we went to uni it was a lot more cognitive and science, and it was like,
the biological stuff.
Yeah.
And the statistics.
Yeah.
No one tells you about the statistics.
The statistics. Oh my gosh, I forgot. But okay, so we actually did a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology applied.
Yeah.
But Durham, which is where we went to, also offered a Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology.
I think so, yeah.
Did you choose which one you wanted, and what made you choose one and not the other?
I think I actually initially applied for because I think with Durham it's different anyway because there's 2 campuses. So the applied was at the Stockton campus and the other one was at the main campus. So I think I initially applied for the main campus, which I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And then it becomes oversubscribed and then they send some people to the other one.
Yeah.
And at the time I didn't really think that much of it. I just thought, oh, well, it's still good to go to Durham, it's still a good university.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter which campus you're on. So I just thought, oh well, that's fine. I didn't really know what the difference between applied was and the other one, to be honest. But,
no.
Yeah.
The only thing I can really think of is that one was a BSc and one was a BA.
Yeah.
That's really the main thing. So in a sense, I can't remember which one I personally applied to, or maybe the same thing happened. I honestly can't remember. But I think in the end, I was happier to have done a BSc than a BA.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so as well. I think maybe we had a bit more statistics.
Yeah, so maybe that's where then the statistics and the science comes in. So maybe someone else who did a BA in psychology, they would have a different experience or would say it related more. Yeah, do let us know. Okay, so following the completion of your bachelor's, what did you do? And I think I just want to specify that there's this notion that you can't just do a bachelor's in psychology and then go on to work in psychology. People always talk about you have to then specialize in something else or do a postgraduate, etc. So I just want to know kind of like your route, and then now you're obviously saying that you're training to qualify in something. So could you just explain what you did after and also why you went that route, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so when I finished the degree, third year was really difficult and the dissertation was so stressful. I actually was like, I don't want to do anything in psychology ever again. I was like, I'm done with this. I thought that I wasn't really interested, or at least I thought maybe I just needed a break. So I actually got offered a job to work at the university for 1 year. So I stayed 1 more year at Durham. One of my friends was staying, she had the job, it seemed like quite a good deal. I didn't really know what else I was going to do. I was like, at least I'll be earning some money. Yeah. So I stayed along for another year. It was sort of like an alumni relations job. So I did events organisation and admin and ran the bar and stuff. It was a really, it was a fun time.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. Sorry, I had a mind block for a second.
People were like, forget. I even forget.
Yeah, because I keep thinking about you travelling, and that's
yeah. But for the whole year, I did that, and over that year, I managed to save some money. And then I decided I wanted to go travelling. So over that year, I worked for a year. I stayed at the university. I just worked. I still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to go travelling. I wanted to go to Australia. So I was saving and saving and saving, booked my flights. And then, so like the year after I graduated, I guess, I then went to Australia.
Yeah.
And I was working as like a nanny and an au pair. And I always loved children, look after children. So I went to Australia on my own, got this job. I was working as an au pair, looked after these 3 children for, like 8 months. And then I travelled the rest of it. I was away for like almost a year, and that was so much fun. And during that time when I was away, actually maybe it was before I went away, I was like, I think when I come back I'll do a master's. I think I'd like had a break, realised that psychology, I do want to do psychology. I think I just found it stressful in 3rd year, so I was like, I'll apply for some master's courses. So when I come back from travelling in September, I can just start a master's straight away. So that's what I did, and I applied for some different masters in London, and I finished off travelling and I came back to London and I started, that October, I guess, my master's, which was called, the name was Foundations in Clinical Psychology and Health Services at the University of Goldsmiths. It was an MSc, 1 year, full-time. It was really great. So I think I was ready at that point. I guess I had maybe 2 years off since my first degree. I had 2 years off, worked, went travelling, and then I was ready to get back into it, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess leading on from that, my question to you would then be, so going back to the whole, to have a postgraduate or other qualifications in psychology to work within that field, were those the motivations that made you go on to do your MSc, or were there other things that motivated you to go on to do that, such as, I guess, for the field that you want to be in now, or the specific area of study? Did that master's link in with that, and is that why you did it?
I think if I'm being honest, I think I was still kind of partly like, I'm not entirely sure what I want to do.
Yeah.
A master's is a good option. Like, luckily I lived in London, I could live at home with my mum. And doing a master's, you know, is always going to be beneficial. It's never going to be a waste of time, you know.
Exactly.
It's taking me in the right direction. I still wasn't really sure exactly what in psychology I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to work with people, doing something practical. I think I still thought, you know, I want to work with children. I love working with children.
Yeah.
Maybe like that kind of area. So I did the master's, but what was really great, and actually why I chose my master's that I did at Goldsmiths, was that because I had a placement.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to kind of like apply to the placement when you're on the master's, and then luckily I got like a really good one, an IAP service. I don't know, people might know if they know psychology, but working in the NHS, and I did this placement as a student placement for 3 months, and then it was kind of at that period of time that I was like, I'm kind of sure now. I was working with like psychologists and clinical psychologists and trainee psychologists and PWPs and CBT therapists, and I was like, this is what I want to do. So I think it was almost having that experience working in that environment that made me really sure.
Yeah.
And then it also gave me like the motivation that I wanted to pursue it more.
Exactly.
And I found the whole masters itself really, really interesting anyway, because it was all about, you know, the NHS and working in the NHS and mental health and services and things. So it was, I realised throughout the course of it that I was like, now I know.
Yeah.
So it really helped me to decide that that was what I wanted to do.
Exactly.
So it was really good.
That's amazing. And so actually, piggybacking off what you said, so about placements, would someone be able to do a placement whilst they're doing a bachelor's? Is that something that's more recognized? Because going back to what we were talking about off camera before, we obviously talked about some people who we went to uni with did internships and placements, and that kind of set them straight for their job as soon as they graduated. So is that something you would recommend that would be useful in psychology?
100%. I mean, it's funny because I wouldn't change anything necessarily now about my journey, because I feel like it's important to have those years of travelling and time off, because I think if I'd have just gone straight into psychology, you know, when would I have a break? So I think I wouldn't change it, but I think if you know 100% that you want to be a clinical psychologist or any type of psychologist, you should pick a bachelor's degree that has a placement. Because some of them have like a whole 1 year placement, and you can work for a whole year as an assistant psychologist in an NHS service, which means that when you graduate, you're basically going to be pretty much first in line to get an assistant psychologist job, because you've done it already.
Exactly.
And even though I hadn't done that, and my placement was only 3 months, I was able to get a job after with the placement, because in the interviews, you know, they're asking you like, what are your skills, what have you learned? And I think they don't mind if it was a placement, they just want to hear how you've learned from those experiences. So 100%, if you get the choice and you know that's what you want to do, choose a placement, a degree that has a placement. I would really, really recommend that.
Okay. Yeah, I think I definitely would agree, because out of most of the people that we did our degree with, I would say probably you are one of the only ones who's studying psychology. I'm slowly finding my way back. But I definitely think, sorry guys, the plane's around. But and then I guess also, what would be good like search engine websites, or what would be good companies to look for when you're looking for a placement or internship? Did you say the NHS?
Yeah, I would always look on NHS jobs. I don't know how many placements or like, you know, there's so many things I can say about this, but I won't go into too much. But in psychology, there's a massive debate and a massive sort of upset at the moment with a lot of unpaid jobs, and it's really, really, I mean, there's lots of like people that talk about it, get really upset about it, because it's so unfair, because it's hard to get experience, and then a lot of people are asking you to work as like an honorary assistant psychologist, which basically means you're working for free, and you're working, that they're expecting a lot from you. So I don't think anyone should ever have to work for free for doing a valuable job. I think that's unfair, taking advantage of young people. Because they know that they can. But having said that, you know, doing a placement is working for free. So I think it's a good experience, but I think just be careful not to get sucked into something that, you know, is taking advantage of you. But NHS jobs, looking at there. There's like Facebook pages and stuff, and like assistant psychologist stuff. I think look at like different forums. I think when I was realise I wanted to go into psychology, I was just Googling like anything to do with it, and I think
Yeah.
and some NHS schemes do run these kind of like placements, and I think I actually applied for some of them. I don't think I ever got anywhere, but yeah, definitely I would just Google like anything to do with assistant psychologist or that kind of roles and see what comes up.
Okay.
But NHS jobs is always a good place to start, I think.
To start with. And okay, so I know I wrote the questions down, but then I guess as we're having the conversation, I'm just thinking about more stuff, and it could help someone out there. So yes, as we were talking, I just thought about something else. So we talked about, you know, some unpaid work experiences.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of students in university, they obviously are trying to make money, so they do part-time jobs, etc. What people tend to go for most is like retail, but you need something that has transferable skills.
Yeah.
So what would be like good like work experiences to get? Because I think the only thing I can possibly think of now is, for example, a healthcare assistant, or you know, like what are they called? The assistants with the people who have disorders or carers and stuff. Yeah.
I would say exactly the same. I'd say if you're interested, you know you want to go into psychology, anything that has any kind of caring nature. So healthcare assistants, carers, even volunteering in an old people's home, volunteering at mental health charities. So Mind, they have opportunities for young people to volunteer. The Samaritans train with them. They train up volunteers to manage the phone lines. And again, working in like other emergency services, like being on the behind the crisis line of the like 999 number or something, dealing with emergencies, dealing with crisis situations, anything that has a caring kind of role. Even working in schools, I would say, working with children as a TAA, working in a SEN, like special educational needs school, working one-on-one with children that have special educational needs, working with people with disabilities, working in any kind of caring setting, or with vulnerable groups of people, is what I think are like really, really transferable skills. And if I could go back again, I would do something like that, because I think it's invaluable to have that experience working with different population groups, in different kind of like mental health settings, or even just like healthcare settings.
Yeah, or even obviously be careful, but in like offenders, etc. That would be that's
if it's if it's all kind of like obviously well supervised and safe. But a lot of people that eventually go into psychology have been like healthcare assistants or healthcare workers to begin with, because it's like that's the kind of skills they're looking for.
Okay, and then I guess my final question for you, well I have two, but the main one would be, now you said you're qualifying as a
well, I'm about to start, so I've got 3 years left until I qualify, but I'm about to start my doctorate in clinical psychology, so the Dclin, people call it. I don't know if you're interested in it, but I'm about to start that in the next few weeks. So.
And I just think it would be important, you've taught me this, but for anyone out there, how does that differ from a PhD?
So like, it's actually quite hard to explain that. I always struggle, but I guess overall a PhD is like a 3-year research project. So in most PhDs, and I'm really not an expert, so don't quote me on this, but most PhDs are you spend 3 years researching a subject and you write up a really, really long piece of work, thesis on that, and that's kind of your whole 3 years is mostly research. Maybe you do some teaching, maybe do some other things in that, but it's mostly the research. Whereas the clinical doctorate and the doctorate in clinical psychology, where you become, at the end you're a psychologist, you're a clinical psychologist, and you have the doctor in front of your name, is a more clinical kind of version. So I guess you do research, but you also do placements. You work in different hospitals, you work in different mental health settings, you work with all across the lifespan. So you work with children, adults, learning disabilities, you do forensics, you do older adults, you do sort of everything, and you, over the 3 years, you are working, studying, learning, and doing bits of research, but it's not just research. So I think that's the main key difference, is that you get the clinical skills to be a psychologist. Because obviously psychologists, they do research, but they also mostly are doing, well, it completely depends where you're going to end up working, but you kind of learn that clinical experience as well.
That's amazing. So that's more like, it's a lot more on the field, hands-on, etc. Is there anything particular that you would need in order to get onto one of those?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
quite
Oh, no.
yeah. So I think, I mean, there's so much information out there. I'll say at the end some useful websites and things that help me, but the main criteria is that you have to have a degree in psychology or a conversion course. So if your first degree wasn't psychology, if you do a conversion course, then you'll know if that's what you've done. And I'd say most courses say 2-1, high 2-1. Some of them even say like more specific things like you have to have a first in all of your statistics modules. Some of them, I don't know, maybe there's like 30 or something unis that do it in the UK, and you just need to check every single one of them has different requirements. So there's a website called The House that has all the information for the doctorate. So look on there. Every university, it takes a while, but some people have made spreadsheets and stuff on Facebook pages and things, so you can find it if you just hunt them out. But yeah, so psychology degree or conversion, at least 2 years, I would say, 1 or 2 years of working in a relevant field. So they want like that full time. So if you've done like something for 2 months, you need to have like, it had to add up to 1 or 2 years. And I would say that they say 1 year, but you know, it's plus. It's plus.
Yeah. Especially if it's competitive, then.
Because that's the thing, it is competitive, and I think a lot of people have a lot of amazing experience, and they've got really good degrees, they've got masters, they've got postgraduate certificates, they've got everything, and they've worked for 3 years and they still can't get on. So, you know, it's just bettering your chances. So a lot of people have masters, but you don't have to. That's not the requirement, but obviously it helps because. So also they're looking at the clinical component, so 2 years or whatever it is, and working in a relevant field. So that could be working as a healthcare assistant, that could be working most commonly as an assistant psychologist. That's the traditional route. But more recently, it's working as a psychological wellbeing practitioner, PWP, CWP, which is what I did, working with as a children's wellbeing practitioner, working as there's all these new ones now, clinical associate psychologist or things like that. These kind of roles. So they would count as relevant experience, but they also want to see that you have research experience.
Yeah.
And some universities care more about the research, so some of them are like, you need like a whole year of research experience. So maybe they want you to have worked as a research assistant at university, or you know, that can still count towards it. So if you've worked doing research, that can still really help. So there's all these different things, but yeah, they're going to look at your research and they're going to look at your clinical experience. Let's say you did an undergraduate and you did a master's. They both have dissertations. That was enough for me to get on.
Yeah.
I talked about my research at those. That was enough, but for my university. But it's different for everyone. So I think the best advice I could give anyone that's interested in pursuing a career in clinical psychology and doing the doctorate is to check the websites, requirements for every single course. Make sure you meet the criteria. Pick the ones that are most relevant to you, and that's a good starting point, because there's no point applying for something that, you know, you don't meet the requirements for, if that makes sense. So that's the best first step, I would say.
Amazing. There's so much to unpack. So my final question, it's a 2-part question. So the first part is, what is your end goal? So, you know, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What contributions do you think you'll be making to the psychological field? And then secondly, what is your best advice for anyone out there wanting to pursue a career in psychology? Because obviously you just explained the one for the Dclin. Is that how you got it?
Yeah.
But then for someone actually, just starting, what's your best advice in terms of that, and based on a mistake, for example, that you made, or information that you wish you'd known?
Yeah.
So yeah,
okay.
I hope that makes sense.
I've already forgotten the first question.
So the first one is, what's your end goal?
Okay, yeah.
Ultimate plan, your dream.
Yeah, so obviously, well, I don't know if it's obvious, but in 3 years' time I'll be qualified, so I'll be doctor, I'll be a psychologist, and at that point you're really able to kind of do what you want. Yeah. I think I always see myself working in CAMS, which is the Children and Adolescent Mental Health Service. That's because that's what I've been doing.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and that's what I'm working as well. I was working in my old job, so
amazing.
I kind of see myself doing that, but at the same time, who knows, maybe over the next 3 years I'll love working with older people, I love working with adults or people with disabilities, or in forensics. Like, I'm not sure what's going to happen. But yeah, so I guess after you finish, I'll get a job as a psychologist. I think at that point you're still learning. I think for a long time you're still learning, because I think even though you have the qualification, you're not, I'm still going to be like figuring everything out, still going to be learning. I'll still be a young or new psychologist. So I think I just want to get as much experience as I can, work, and then I guess longer term there's so many options. You can go into sort of more managerial positions, you can go into research, you can go into teaching, you can go into starting up new projects or new developments and things like that. So I'm not really sure.
So for you, it's just, you'll see when you get there, because there's so much.
Yeah. Okay. It's hard to say, especially because I haven't even started yet the training. So I think, I don't know. I could say what I think now, but it could all change. Even in like a month's time, I could discover a new passion. But I think doing the doctorate gives you the flexibility to choose. I think that's why it's so good, because when you're a psychologist, and you can have more option, I think, in choosing what you want to do. But I'm not sure yet.
Amazing.
But it's exciting to find out.
Yeah.
And the second question was?
Yeah, what's your number one tip that you would give for someone out there based on something you wish you'd known or a mistake you made?
I think one tip is just having confidence in yourself and also having patience, because I think for a lot of people it can be a really stressful process, and people, they invest their life and their soul into this process. And it's not the be all and end all of life. There's so many other things you can do. There's so many other qualifications you can do in psychology. Like, this isn't, it's put on a pedestal, but it's not the be all and end all. There's so many other things you can do. So I think have confidence in yourself and take your time. Like, there's no rush. Like, I don't know, do they know how old we are? I'm 27. I just turned 27 and I'm going to start and I'll be finishing this when I'm 30. But like, that's still quite young. People will be much older than me. People will be younger than me, Everyone does things at their own time. So I think don't compare yourself to other people. Have patience. Trust the process of it, and like trust that you will get on at the right time. And I think that's the thing, is people get worked up, but when you're ready, it's going to happen. So I think trust the process. And also, every year that you're working and you're getting experience, you're learning so much. So I think nothing is wasted time. It's all valuable experience. So keep going with it. And then I guess in terms of advice, start early with work experience, get some of those healthcare assistant roles, volunteer. I didn't mention this earlier, I volunteered at Great Ormond Street Hospital for a while. That was so amazing. And they're really fun as well, and you can learn so much that's enjoyable. So volunteer, do what you can, fit things in with your schedule to give you that valuable experience and things to talk about in your interview. And then also, don't be afraid to ask for help. I think is key. When you're writing applications, when you're writing job applications, when you're having interviews for jobs, ask people, do a mock interview. They help. They save my life, I think, mock interviews. Because they're so scary, they're really awkward. Yeah. But they're so helpful.
They make a difference.
Because you have to practice. Everything is practice. So just don't be afraid to ask someone. If you know someone in your job that is a psychologist, let's say, just say, can you read my statement? Yeah. Don't be afraid. Everyone wants to help. I think I learned that, is that most people really want to help you. And like, even ask your friends, ask your family, just, even if they're not in the field, just ask anyone you can to read your statements, do mock interviews with you, help you in any way they can. I think that's really valuable. So don't be scared or don't be embarrassed to ask for help from people, because people always help you.
I love that. I think I agree with you, and I think the passion thing resonated the most with me, because ultimately they say that you chase something for the money, the passion, because ultimately with psychology you need that passion, because irrespective of whatever trials come at you, irrespective of how frustrating it is to, for example, research on one topic or want to make groundbreaking stuff on another, thing, then if you have your passion, that is ultimately your strength. Yeah. And I think that's really important.
And especially when something is a long process. Yeah. If you don't have passion for it, or you're not that motivated, like, there's no point. Like, literally, you have to really care about it, because it's a long ride, I think. Absolutely. So kind of like accept the fact that it's going to be a long journey. Yeah. And just enjoy the process and learn everything you're learning, and the way it's going to be valuable. So don't put too much pressure on yourself, is what I would say.
And statistics, you're not running away from them. So if you don't like statistics, honestly,
I'm gonna have to start doing them again soon. Like, feeling a bit stressed.
But yeah, I think that was it. Thank you so much. There was so much to unpack. This was so informative.
Okay.
I'm so grateful to have had you officially. She's been on the channel so many times in the vlogs and stuff, but to actually have a conversation and to see that behind the fun, they're brains. There's a brain out there. There's a brain in each and every single one of my friends. But
we hide it well.
We hide it. We're modest with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you so much. And as Rosa said, so if you have any websites or anything to share,
can link them maybe. Yeah.
And then we'll link it. And if you have questions, comment below and I'll tell Rosa to reply to you all, or she'll tell me the info and I'll revert back. But yeah, so guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so, and I will see you in my next video for a new chit chat with another graduate. Anyways guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Bye.